It's quite an interesting story right there. Cicadas, and they're preparing them, and I'm being told it's just like our kumbe kumbe, you know, in many ways. How so interesting how there's so much similarity, you know, globally speaking. But right now we want to talk matters food safety. I don't know whether the cicadas being made there, they were safe, but I hope they were. But we want to delve into this discussion of food safety, Day 2024, which is normally marked on the 7th of June, especially for this year. And the theme is prepare for the unexpected. I have a heavy panel here, well balanced. Right on my left is Mr. Fred Mushere, who is the CEO, Pest Control Products Board. And at the center, we have Pil Arnett Holm, Senior Advisor, Food Safety at the Royal Danish Embassy here in Nairobi. And at the far end, we have Mr. Alan Azegele, who is the Acting Director, Veterinary Services at the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Gentlemen, lady, welcome to FarmKenya show. All right, so for starters, I mean, it's very important for us to set the foundation of this discussion. Mr. Frederick, I know you head the Pest Control Products Board, and this year's theme of World Food Safety Day, it's saying that prepare for the unexpected, which sounds a little bit scary. You know, we are preparing for the unexpected. Just bring us up to date. When you talk about food safety and the evolution of safety on what we feed on, how has that evolved till right now in the post-pandemic era we are in the year 2024 in the Kenyan context?
Thank you, Alan. I will talk about food safety in relation to the mandate of the Pest Control Products Board. The Pest Control Products Board is an institution which does or plays a major role when it comes to food safety in the country, in that we regulate one of the main factors of production of food. This is chemicals or pesticides used in the management of pests and diseases. So when it comes to matters food safety, given that pesticides are meant to be toxic, pesticides play a major role when it comes to matters food safety in this country. Because if things go wrong, many things can go wrong in terms of our health.
Exactly. That's very, very important. And we'll be going deeper into that because industrial scale production of food, actually involvement of these chemicals that are very critical comes in handy. Pil Arnett, I mean, you reflecting on this particular theme, because I know the theme was chosen for a reason, expecting or rather preparing for the unexpected. We are in an age where we are discussing food security as a country, as a continent, a lot of things happening, climate change. But bottom line is that you have to have people eating in a nation for it to function. So in terms of this theme of unexpecting or expecting or preparing for the unexpected, what is your interpretation of it?
I think the important thing to think about here is preparing for the unexpected is obviously a government issue. It's also a private sector issue, but it also for yourself when you're in your own kitchen to be aware what do you need to do when something unexpected happens. So if something falls onto your food, if your food falls onto the floor, whatever happens, if at the store that the electricity goes out, the cooling system fails, you need to know what to do. And that is the preparation for the unexpected. So it's obviously big happenings like climate change, as you mentioned, flooding, drought, but it's also the small everyday things happening within your own home for you to be aware at your kitchen, at your farm, at your local store. How do you prepare when things go wrong? Because they do go wrong.
Definitely. Preparing, so there is the macro aspect of things as we talk about regulation, for example, but bottom line is you and your household. Are you really aware of what you're putting into what you eat? Very, very important. Mr. Allen, thank you very much for making time, sir. I mean, you are in the veterinary world, and when you talk about food, it carries both sides. We drink milk, you know, we eat beef. Some people eat cicadas, you know, and kumbe kumbe, which is, food is diversifying by the day. Talk to me in that regard, especially in the capacity that you're in, how critical food safety is, especially on this aspect of we as a people anticipating or rather preparing for unexpected, and in your context, what is the unexpected?
Thank you, Noah. First, for this opportunity to be here, and also the Standard Media Group for this opportunity. Yeah, preparing for the unexpected. You can do everything right, but something may go wrong. And just as Peel has mentioned, things can go wrong at any point. You will not realize that food safety is not about what is on the table specifically, but it starts right from the farm. If there is a disease that may occur at the farm level affecting a food animal, and that disease can be transmitted through that food animal to humans, you must be ready to ensure you contain it at that point. And you know, life is dynamic, health is dynamic. So how do you prepare yourself for such a situation? Because it will affect your food supply. It will affect the safety of that food that will get into the food chain.
Definitely.
That is one of the instances. Secondly, you may have a very nice animal, healthy, released, say, to go to the slaughterhouse. If you transport it to the slaughterhouse on the way, depending on the distance you're covering, and on as you go, there is a rain and a flood and the bridge is blown off, what happens? You're not expecting, you knew you passed there, the road was there. Suddenly, it's off. This animal that needs to be well secured and delivered to the slaughterhouse may arrive when it's very stressed, and at that point, if slaughtered, you'll find the food that is produced from these animals not being of the right quality and also not very safe to use, because the health of that animal is critical towards what ends up on the table. Furthermore, you're in processing. Whatever equipment you use, if there's a breakdown, shrapnels of metals fall into the food you're processing, what happens? You have to be very, very alert and know what to do as a processor, either the farmer, a transporter, and even at the shelf. So those are some of the instances within the space.
Yes.
We have to be conscious about ensuring the safety of this food right from the farm all the way up to the table.
Makes a lot of sense. From farm to fork, as they say, each and every, in that whole value chain, it matters. It matters to the nitty-gritties. And I'm glad we're having this discussion, since Mr. Mushiri, you are right at the production level, because, and I don't know whether there is a pre-production level when it comes to food safety, because some of us, we interact with your products, these products that you're regulating. It's when you're trying to do weeds, contain pests, we utilize that. But I've had guests here on this show come and talk about the right seed quality. That is almost pre-production. Before even you plant anything, you really have to take care of that. It has an impact on the final end of the product. And I think It's something that we will touch on in detail at this particular moment. We're just setting the stage. At least now I know what the unexpected is. Now the question is, how do we prepare for that unexpected? Remember, it is the Farm Kenya show, and today we are tackling matters food safety. World Food Safety Day 2024 is happening on Friday, the 7th of June. So this week we are focusing on that and making sure that you're properly equipped at the micro level, but also at the macro level if you're in any value chain, how to properly make sure that your food is safe. Stay tuned. That conversation will be going on right after this break. Stay tuned.
Are you ready to make your mark in the world? To showcase your business, event, or special announcement in a way that grabs attention? Well, you can now rest easy with the Standard Group self-service platform, allowing you to book ad space in the Standard newspaper hassle-free. So say hello to your brand's visibility courtesy of Standard Ad Center, which is self-service friendly, easier, faster, and smarter. Book your ad in the Standard newspaper from the comfort of your home, office, or wherever you are. Because it really is as easy as visiting ads.standardmedia.co.ke/ads to follow the prompts and make it count for your business. A product of Standard Group PLC.
DJ Tatua.
You already know, they call me Joe the Best, and Joe the Best always remain to be my name. Remember guys, Saturdays is Straight Up Show, and this Saturday, we're making your day.
This is DJ Tatua, most valued DJ.
Gaela Tikaya la patrona, Gilda Sambendengesi, mon ami Gaël.
Allo vakapona sanite bandi makapona zoni de moto.
System ya benda. Eloko na tango na yango.
Patrick Diongo, Docteur François Xavier Thiessi.
Show, and right there I have my microphone up. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome back to the Farm Kenya show, and today we're discussing matters World Food Safety Day, and I have a very heavy panel here, very experienced in matters world food and safety in the Kenyan context especially, and I like us to pivot in the different levels of food value chain. For starters, we begin with production. And Mr. Mushiri, the products that you regulate are part of the production heavily. And they have an impact on food safety. Now, we are in an age where we have options. There is the element, I don't know, some people have gone organic, as pest has to be utilized, especially on commercial scale farming. Talk to me about these products. So far, have they been safe for our foods? Have there been instances of abuse when it comes to this pest, and how are they endangering, food in this country?
Thank you, Alan. Just like I started by saying, the Pest Control Products Board is a regulator. When you are a regulator, there are systems that have been put in place to ensure the products that are available to the users are safe to the human health, the environment, and they are also of good quality. So what the Pest Control Products Board does, we do what we call a scientific dossier evaluation to filter what is good for the country, and what is good for the country is what is allowed for use. Like you note, we have products that are registered for use on non-consumable, and those that are registered for use on consumable products. The ones that are registered for consumables, there is something we call residue data. You see, when you apply pesticides on crops or during the production process, there is the breakdown process, which will usually end up to different products or same products but at very low levels. So that is one of the elements that are considered in determining the products that are registered for use on consumable, in other words, for use on food crops. So it is only those products whose maximum residue limits are within what is acceptable under the Codex Alimentarius situation, which is a global body that determines what is allowed for use. Similarly, when we are producing as a country for countries outside Kenya, for example the EU, we have to take into consideration what the EU will accept in terms of what they refer to as safe food, because safe food might differ depending on which country you are producing for. So when we are producing for the EU, we take note of their interest when it comes to trade. When we are producing for Kenya as well, we take care of the residues as guided by the Codex agreed residue limits. Okay. So what we allow is what has been found to be safe for use in Kenya. Thank you.
That's important to note. And Pil Annette, I'm glad that you're here, because we live in a globalized environment. Even when you talk about food safety and utilization of some of these products, because we are in different jurisdictions, honestly, with different needs. That's why some of our products maybe cannot be allowed into some jurisdictions because of the products that we use, as is rightly put it. In the spirit of food security, is there a day that we'll see a standardized approach that this is safe food globally as it stands? It's standardized whether in Africa or in the United States or in Europe. The standards are the same and people are able to access, or will we continue having this tiered system of what we consider as safe food?
Now, I really wish that I could tell you what the future will bring. Unfortunately, my mandate is food safety, not so much as what's going to happen. But I will say this, that people do not eat the same, and therefore standards also must differ. So one example is that if you have a very small amount of something that could potentially be harmful in larger amounts, it may not be harmful in smaller amounts within your body. So if you come from a community that only eats very little of this product, then the limit can be higher. But if this is a product that is a staple in your community, where you maybe eat it for breakfast, you eat it for lunch, you eat it for dinner, the amount you partake of is so much bigger that the limit that is allowed within this food needs to be lower. So the vision of one standard across the world would also need to mean that all people across the world ate the same amount of everything. And I don't really see that happening in the near future.
All right. That makes actually a lot of sense. We consume different products in different variations, and that demands that recalibration based on jurisdiction. Very, very important. Mr. Allen, for veterinary, especially production aspect, because we as human beings, what we eat, like some of these pesticides that are utilized, even for veterinary services and veterinary products, the animals that go to the slaughter and we eat meat, for example, do have an impact. So what Mr. Mushiri is regulating actually also has direct impact on what you do. Talk to me about that, how pesticides impact the veterinary segment of our food systems, and also utilization of chemicals, how it impacts on food safety in the Kenyan context.
Thank you, Noah, for that. At farm level, you find, and I'm sure you must have experienced as you grew up, animals that you keep tend to fall sick, and you'll always run for a veterinarian to come and treat your animal. At that time, you get excited to see somebody taking the temperature of an animal, the parameters that are needed, and then eventually he injects, and you see your animal come back to full health restoration. So as you do this, you find when you use veterinary drugs to treat animals, you must first ensure that you have the proper diagnosis so that you use the proper drug for treatment of that ailment that causes the pathogen that causes the sickness. Because once that is undertaken and on a food animal, you may find you are advised, if it is a dairy animal, do not consume the milk for, say, 3 days or 4 days. You have to really milk and pour out that milk. Simply because the veterinary drugs injected into the animal are discharged also through the milk. So those drugs will be present in the milk, and also, and therefore it is not safe for you to take that milk from an animal that is sick, that is undergoing treatment. So you must that's when we advise you observe withdrawal periods. And this is actually the essence where you find there's a habit sometimes, somebody seeing that you're going to pour out 30 liters, or you have eggs that the chicken have laid, and these ones are under treatment, and you need to discard them because they're undergoing treatment. It's not safe to eat, to drink the milk, or cook the eggs for consumption, because the levels of drugs in those eggs or milk, or if you slaughter a sick animal that is undergoing treatment, the levels of drugs in that meat will be high. So that is one primary thing that we really emphasize at farm level, to ensure that whenever you have a sick animal, isolate it, let it be treated, observe the withdrawal periods as advised by the animal health service practitioner, and then once it's safe, you can now either use the meat, milk, or eggs that you're producing. So those are some of the essence. But we also, that is part of what we do, and ensure that we safeguard human health through that. We also safeguard the animal health and the welfare of the animal.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Peel, I mean, if that happens, I can imagine now at the consumption level. Now this one I'm jumping all the way to consumption. If actually, and I think I need to get used to this kind of miking, yeah. But if what he's saying is actually what is happening at the consumption level, hopefully there are like barriers. When you talk about food security, some of these within the value chain, are there standards that could be placed so that if, for example, I was treating my chicken in my small, chicken farm, and I got the eggs, I was advised initially, these ones do not consume. But somehow, it's eggs. I'm thinking this is 15 bob, per egg. I can still sneak it into the market. From a food safety perspective and advisory, how do you protect the consumer in such a micro level?
I think that's a really complicated question. And I think that the answer is very short. It's called the One Health approach. It's also what Alan was explaining before. And it means that what you try to do is you try to stop the emergency from happening at the lowest possible level. So if we say, we keep with the example of eggs, and the eggs are contaminated. So those eggs may go into bread for baking. That is common. That will contaminate the bread. If you test at the level of the bread, it is not fit to be food. It is not safe. You need to condemn the bread, and it is lost. Together with that bread is lost not just the egg, there's also lost the flour, the water, the electricity for baking, the transportation of all these goods, the labor at the farm level, the fertilizer, and the pesticides. So whenever you put together a system for trying to combat these things, it's really important that you try to fix things or prevent things at the level that is as low as possible. Meaning in this case, if the eggs are contaminated because of contaminated feed, you need to not use the feed to save the eggs. If what is contaminated are the eggs at the level of the eggs, then you need to stop the production there before you put into it transportation, flour, water, electricity. So at each step of the value chain, there needs to be safeguards. And this is the One Health approach, and it is also through a system called the HACCP system, which is Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point System, and good manufacturing practices. So if these are kept and these are observed, then things will be safe to eat all through the value chain.
Definitely. Wow. So systems do work, the right systems. Mr. Mushiri, this issue of one of the biggest issues that has been coming up, especially it's one of the household names when it comes to food safety. We saw that the North Rift farmers, now they're supplying maize, but again, it's we have, I think, an oversupply now. The prices are a little bit low. But in regards to the maize, one of the issues that has been coming up is this issue of aflatoxin. Yeah, it seems to be very. It's popular and it's also of concern. I know initially we were supposed to have the Grain Council here, but talk to me in terms of regulation of this element called aflatoxin. First of all, its usage, and is it that it's abused most of the times in our utilization? How come it's of such big concern?
Thank you, Alan. I'll just talk about aflatoxin. You see, aflatoxin is in maize or in grain is caused by a fungi, which produces the toxins that would normally affect grain food. And the aflatoxin is they are not in every other part of the country. There is quite a bit of high concentration of aflatox in the eastern region than the left. And usually when maize is not dried properly, or during the process of drying, we would have the fungal attack. It's called as fungal fragas. This is the one which produces the toxins, which would make now the maize or the grain toxic. Now, what have we done as an institution when it comes to the management of aflatoxin? we have a product we've registered called Aflasif. Aflasif, when used at the right time, controls the aflatoxin in maize. So there is call it a pest control product, don't call it a pesticide. A pest control product that has been manufactured or developed to contain the issue of aflatoxin. And let me add this, that aflatoxin management might call for a lot of sensitization, because most of the food we eat, you'll find that there is some contaminants. It might not be as high as in other places, but there is some contaminants of the aflatoxin in most of the grains we eat. So the country needs to attack it as an issue. It's a big issue. It's only that it is an issue in certain parts of the country and not the others. Like the lift. The lift is usually very safe. I don't know why, but I'm told it is the temperatures. It has a particular temperature range where it reproduces itself.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Aflasafe is to counter that.
Aflasafe.
Aflasafe, right?
Yes.
And hopefully the uptake is as high in those regions as areas of concern as it stands.
There is a small problem on the uptake, in that the mass, in other words, the stakeholders are not aware of the importance of the Aflasafe. So the uptake of the Aflasafe in an effort of trying to contain the aflatoxin is very low. Yes.
That's quite unfortunate. Mr. Zegele, I mean, in regards from a production perspective, the interventions that we are making, and I'm glad, I mean, we have Aflasafe here to counter aflatoxin. From the veterinary point or side of food systems, you noted that it's imperative, especially when involving medication, chemicals, for farmers to follow instruction if we are to have safety at that particular level. Are there any innovations, or practices that have sort of been standardized, or you can advise at the farm level, even before we move up the value chain, that could be sort of standardized approach, if at all you are in production, that could sort of ensure that there is food safety from those products at the farm level, intervention for farmers. What are they supposed to do other than just following instructions when utilizing some of this? Are there other practices at the farm level that could be inculcated to make our food safer?
Yeah, indeed, there's quite a lot that needs to be undertaken at the farm level. And it's a whole matrix of activities, from good husbandry practices. And this is not only limited to feeding and nutrition. The housing of these animals has to be proper. There should be proper ventilation. Even the siting of the animal house is very, very critical. All these measures that come into play, first, for the welfare of the animal. Two, that welfare of the animal impacts on the health of this animal. And as you feed it, so that it performs better, to the extent that it grows faster if you're targeting a beef animal. It produces more milk if it's a dairy animal. If it is birds, you find the laying percentage is close to 100%. And if it's those broilers which take a shorter time to grow, they grow well. So there are various documents that are available, and also we have legislation in place that covers some of these practices. One, the Animal Diseases Act has a range of regulations that give guidance to what to do and what not to do, and also provides for the issues to do with movement of animals, biosecurity matters. In the event of an outbreak of a disease, what do you do? I'm sure you came across the term quarantine during COVID. That's a term we use very often in the veterinary and animal health field. Okay. So we found it interesting that guys found quarantine very unique, yet we do issue quarantines whenever there is an outbreak of a disease that would impact animal health and also human health. Okay. And therefore it prevents movement of the animals and the products from that. So these, and then there are also international guidelines, even in the Codex Alimentarius Commission, guidelines for that provide for production, proper feeding and production of animals. Okay. And these are some of the documents that we use in extension to just ensure that the good practices are undertaken. Prudent use of veterinary drugs is prudent use of veterinary drugs by animal health practitioners, and then also handling of these animals to ensure their welfare and production.
Definitely.
Yes.
Phil, I want now to move up the value chain with you, because now we've produced, yeah? We don't teleport the food to the market. We have to find ways of transporting and moving these specific products. So I think after this break, I'll be so much interested to look at the movement of food and whether it impacts on food safety, and finally at the market level from a consumer perspective, and at the same time from even a producer, a seller perspective, how can they ensure that our food is safe? So up the value chain. So we take a short break right here at the FarmKenya. Remember, our discussion is starting on World Food Safety Day 2024, which is coming up this week. And you are what you eat, we're told. Some of us, maybe you're not right because you haven't been eating right, but we are to change that narrative. Stay tuned. We take a short break. We'll return with more.
Good people, my name is Brian Sumanite, Captain God's favorite host, and I'm in the heart of Nairobi City. Kuuliza wase kama wameshika Showmax. What am I talking about? Showmax wamefanya ile kitu. They have revamped mazee kila kitu fresh, and I'm talking about international, local, original content. Na isitoshe, ase wanakuonesha English Premier League kwa mpigo. What am I talking about? With as low as 300 Kenya shillings, unapata kutazama Showmax. Na ukiona as low as 500 Kenya shillings, unaona English Premier League on your mobile phone. Right now, I'm in the heart of Nairobi City. I'm going to talk to a number of people just to see ama kujua. Ase wameshika Showmax. Na kama wameshika Showmax, wanapenda nini ndani ya Showmax? Follow me to find out. I'll see you. Tell me, what's your favorite program on Showmax?
Real Housewives of Nairobi.
Nakuona sana mimi wangu ni anaitwa Catherine Masitsa, Dr. C. Ule kipara, umemcheki? Huyo ndo my favorite. Show gani nyingine ambayo unapenda ndani ya Showmax?
Single kiasi.
Kwa nini uko single? Uko single?
Kiasi.
Kuona sana. Utaambia nini kwa watu kuhusu Showmax ukiangalia tu ile kamera?
Watch Showmax. It's really affordable. The quality is okay. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm telling you, with only a minimum of 300 Kenya shillings, you get to enjoy international, local, original content. What am I talking about? Now, ukiona 500 Kenya shillings. English Premier League unaitupa pale ndani na inakuwa fiti sana, au sio?
Shika the new Showmax app today for all your favorite local, international, and kids hit shows and movies from just 300 shillings a month. Shika Showmax, streaming for Africa.
Kenya is on the brink of transformation, and it all starts with understanding the Finance Bill 2024. Join us on 4th June 2024 for an in-depth discussion on the Finance Bill, how it impacts you, and the future of our economy. An exclusive live broadcast from the Standard Group HQ from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on KTN News. Be part of the conversation. Transform Kenya. Finance Bill 2024. Your voice, your future.
Neema yako yanitosha daily na tena upendo wako badiliki daily. Umesema utana nami au utaniacha daily. Ukiniona nikona na wakati yangu sio mimi. Weona anaponya akisema yeye utenda. Weona
services are not as vibrant as they used to be. All right, welcome back to the FarmKenya show, and we're discussing World Food Safety Day 2024. Initially, we were touching on the issue of production and safety at the production level, but there is movement of these food products that we eat. Pil, talk to me about we actually moving products. It seems very simple because I'm taking it from point A to point B. I mean, not much to think about. But when it comes to handling food and transporting food, there is an element of safety that we have to be aware of. Talk to me more about this.
That's absolutely correct. And I think I'm going to start in another place a little bit, because most people imagine that when food is unsafe, the whole product is unsafe. They imagine that whatever toxin is in the food is like when you were a child. You had a glass of water and you added the soft drink to it and it changed the color uniformly within this. This is what people imagine unsafe food, toxic food looks like. But that's not how it works. There are really no food safety hazards that behave in that manner. So the way that, whether they are bacteria or the aforementioned aflatoxin, the way it happens in real is you have your bowl of fruits and you're looking at it. What do I pick? And you notice, there's some mold on this one. I'm going to take it out. That does not mean that the rest of the food is bad. The rest of the food is fine. If you leave this, it may spread across the food. So this one it's touching, this is bad, now this one is bad, and so forth until all of it has gone bad. So that is how most food safety hazards work. They start at a point and they spread. So if we return to the aflatoxin, this is also how it works. So you can have one bag of grains and you have a small corner where there's aflatoxin. That's the small corner where the aflatoxin is. The rest is fine. There's no issue. So you take a sample to make sure. But what are the chances that the sample that you take is from the small corner where there's aflatoxin? It's very small. Most probably, your sample will come out saying this bag of grain is fine. So this is where you get to the transport. You put this sack of grain into the transportation, but the bag is not the right quality. Maybe the grain is a little too moist. Maybe it takes too long. The temperature in the truck is wrong. It may even rain on it and become more moist. And as we heard before, aflatoxin is a fungi that likes moist, hot weather. So it is going to spread from the one area across the entire bag. So this bag has been certified safe at the primary producer because there was no aflatoxin in the sample taken. But by the time it reaches the miller, the aflatoxin may have spread into the entire bag. So that is why transportation and safe transportation is really, really key to preserve the safety of the food. Because had it been transported correctly, this little corner would not have had the opportunity to spread to the entire bag.
Oh, and that's a good explanation, because it's very interesting. I mean, Mr. Mushiri, I know you are heavy on the production level, but there is, in fact, we're just chatting with other agencies that are, you guys are housed at the same place. But this, it seems we have to sort of cross-collaborate with other value chain players. This issue of transportation, for example, what Pilar's raised. Talk to me about how, from your perspective, I know you are heavy on pest production-wise, but how critical is safe transportation when you're talking about food safety in the country?
Yes, it is critical in the sense that, just like she has explained, safe transportation is key to getting clean product to the final destination. If the environment under which clean food is transported is not clean enough to make that food reach destination in its original form, we can have things going wrong along the way. I'm looking at issues to do with, like you are rightfully saying, what we normally do. We can produce very clean, safe food at the farm level. When it comes to now transportation between the farm and the end user, you might find unscrupulous people also doing other things to the food along the way, so that it can possibly have longer shelf life. And it has happened, especially on tomatoes, where food is produced clean, free of pesticide residues, but between the farm and the end market, you find other players in between there, spraying with unauthorized chemicals, which would end up making the food unsafe. So transportation is key when it comes to getting the food in its original form to the final destination.
All right. Zekle, I know you had touched a little bit on how we transport, especially our animals. It has an impact on the quality of product that we get. For example, if it is they're being taken for slaughter for meat and whatnot. Initially, I don't know, because right now one of the buzzwords is mental health. Yeah, even mental health for animals seems to be very critical and features well in this food conversation. But just enunciate for us a little bit on how critical, from the veterinary side, proper transportation of products, animals, our chicken. I see sometimes chicken is hanging. I know there was regulation on how to properly transport this chicken. You can also divulge that for us, the proper way to transport our products, live animals, in a manner that will be safe for the food of Kenyans.
Thank you for that. Movement of animals, it takes different forms. I'm sure at some point you've seen animals being walked along the roadside to the market. And there's also those that are transported using trucks. And these trucks have to be designed in a very specific way that ensure that the animals are not congested in the vessel, and also when moving, they do not literally hit on each other or on the body of the vehicle. It should be sizable enough. That is, say, for the cattle. The chicken that you mentioned, and I'm sure there are many. I'm sure you have pictures of several chicken being hanged on a motorbike. That is not the proper way. There are particular designs of cages that are prescribed for transportation of chicken, including even day-old chicks from the hatchery to the farm. So the legislation is in place for protection and protection from cruelty of animals, that is CAP 360. This legislation, we are reviewing it through the Animal Health Bill to ensure that the welfare of these animals is, the responsibility is with all of us, because these are sentient beings. They have a right to comfort, good feeding, good, the right to express themselves. But at the same time, even if you're taking them for slaughter, they have a right to be transported in a vessel that is dignified. The effect of poor transportation is such that you'll get a lot of condemnations at slaughter. Because if they've been taken through a very rough road and then and they were congested, there'll be a lot of greasing on the animal. And therefore, with these injuries, you'll find a lot of blemishes on the meat. And when you slaughter such an animal, you'll see a carcass that is not well bled, and the fat, which you usually see, which is marbling, white, creamy, is all red. Such a carcass will not pass any inspection at post-mortem. That is a loss to who? The farmer, who has taken close to 16 months to grow this animal, or 2 years to grow this animal for the market. Or if it's a broker who bought it, you can imagine how much he has had to spend in terms of paying that farmer, paying the transport. By the time he gets to the slaughterhouse, he also has to pay for the fees. And then it's condemned. So he loses everything. And woe unto him if he had like 10 animals which had undergone poor transportation. That cannot be allowed into the food supply chain.
All right.
Yeah.
Transportation is very critical.
Furthermore, if I may just add, such meat, probably it may not be on the extreme, but if it has had an animal has been stressed during transport, the quality of the meat that will be harvested, let me call it harvesting, will not last, because a bit of the blood will remain in the flesh, and to that extent, you know what blood is to the bacteria, the meat will rot faster. And if you process it to any other product, that product will not have the shelf life that you expect.
Oh.
So that is the kind of effect poor transportation can have on the kind of product you're going to get. Wow. And it's definitely not very safe.
The trickle-down effect is massive, actually.
Yes.
Wow. And now I want us to go to the markets. Yeah? Pill, we go buy our foods, be it in a local market. And sometimes I'm looking for tomatoes, I'll go look for tomatoes and leave. But when you talk about food safety, talk to me about at the market level, are there requirements, and even observing within Kenya, because each and every single day one of the issues that I see the government being very critical is building of markets, because it offers employment, gives a platform for people to sell their products and people to buy. At the market level, talk to me about that level and how we can ensure that there is maximum food safety for all stakeholders partaking at that market level.
No, I'm so happy you asked that question. Today I am actually coming straight from the Sukhumvit market, where there has been a big market cleanup organized and sponsored by the AgriFund MES program. And they have done a lot of work around building markets which are food safety-wise safe with good hygiene. And that does take different things. So you need to move the food from ground level and up so that it doesn't get splattered with a lot of dirt and mud and exhaust fumes from the cars. So it also needs to be pulled back a little bit from the road. But it also needs to have proper sanitation in the way that all the waste products that such a market produces is removed in a hygienic and sanitary manner. And I think one of the things that we have been working with a lot is all the organic produce, which will attract flies and pests, is brought together in one area and recirculated, whether into feed or into biogas, but it is removed and it is recirculated, so that of itself becomes a product that is worth something and not just waste. Water is very key at these markets. You need to be able to wash your hands if they become contaminated before touching the produce that is there. So I think a lot of work is going on there. And I think also we have in the panel here right now one of the most leading worldwide on the traditional markets, food safety in the traditional markets. Dr. Sikile here is heading the committee. He's vice chair of the Codex Alimentarius and heading the committee on a brand new codex document on traditional markets. Yeah, so amazing. I think I would very much love to pass your question on to the true expert, which is Dr. Sikile.
Yes, Dr. Ari, talk to us, traditional markets and food safety.
Yeah, apparently you'll appreciate that this guideline was motivated by mainly, let me say, developing countries. Simply because there are so many issues to do with street vended foods that have been sprouting everywhere, and there's the need. Everybody wants to eat, and not everybody can eat in the high-end facilities. And at the same time, where do you source this food? We have the markets, which are wet, and I'm sure when I say wet markets, you know very well that these ones which you get fresh foods, and they're highly perishable. So when you have to go and source your food, you need to get food that is in a clean environment, handled in a safe, in a proper hygienic manner, so that you have the confidence that by the time you present it to cook, of course, some of it is cooked, some of it is even eaten raw. I'm sure you'll eat a carrot raw. And even, what do you call this, sweet potatoes.
Yes.
You'll just get tempted and you look at it and you enjoy it and you eat it. But that is where the risk is. Was it well handled at that market? And that's where you find you must ensure that the facilities that you have, they don't predispose the food that is being sold to contamination.
Okay.
So that kind of guidance is what we made, and also provides for all the infrastructure that you may need to ensure is in place for the purposes of facilitating safe trade in the traditional markets.
Definitely. Yes. That's amazing. Mr. Mushiri, I know at the far end, at the consumption level, there is especially chemical intervention comes in, preservatives, trying to lengthen shelf life. Where we are as a country, talk to me about how that element, especially including the chemical element, since you have that background, especially on regulating pests in the country. Has there been, are we utilizing self-preservatives? Are there moves to sort of relook into some of these preservatives that have been causing concerns globally, and maybe have them regulate from production, so that at the final stages we are not just looking at shelf life and making money, but also safety for consumers?
Yeah, thank you. When it comes to self-preservatives, I think the first thing that we need to do is to ensure that the facilities that you have, they are not, they don't predispose the food that is being sold to contamination. So when you have to go and source your food, you need to get food that is in a clean environment, handled in a safe, in a proper hygienic manner, so that you have the confidence that by the time you present it to cook, of course, some of it is cooked, some of it is even eaten raw. I'm sure you'll eat a carrot raw. And even, what do you call this, sweet potatoes. You products for, can we call it storage? We have products that are plant growth regulators in a way, in that some of them will hasten, say, the ripening, others will delay the ripening, especially for fruits. So it is a requirement in either of the two that these products must be submitted and evaluated before being authorized for that particular use. That is under the Pest Control Products Act. However, there are some people, unscrupulous people, who will use anything, especially on tomatoes. You might have seen tomatoes which will never rot. If they ripen, they remain ripe until they dry.
Yes.
These are some of the chemicals we are talking about. Those are chemicals that have been authorized for such usage, and they could be a health risk. So it is happening, but not to a very large scale.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I see our time actually is up. In closing, because I know even when we say World Food Safety Day 2024, at the back of the mind, and this theme, preparing for the unexpected, I think we've tackled a good percentage of the value chain. But in closing, starting with you, Peel, just briefly, you know, you say you don't like playing prophetic and what the future holds, but even where we are as a country, as the world on matters food safety, I know we have Vision 2030, we have specific targets. For you, where you sit, what do you think is one of those key targets that are, maybe as a country and as a globe, we need to reach as soon as possible if we have to push this conversation on matters food safety to the next level?
I think, to be honest, I have been blown away by the work that the Kenyan government does within the food safety area. The dedication I have met here to furthering the health of the Kenyan people is absolutely astounding. And they have taken strides which took 200 years in the EU within a 10-year span, which is absolutely impressive. I think the next most important step is that the Kenyan government, spearheaded by the Department of Livestock, has formulated a new bill called the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill. And that bill, I think, will be very, very key in passing and in proper implementation of that to increase food safety and coordination across all the value chains and the entire country, from county level to export, through the national to the export level. I think that's going to be very, very key.
Definitely. And Dr. Ezekiel, even as we have this conversation from a macro perspective, maybe talk to each and every single Kenyan briefly. When you talk about food safety, how can it be personalized so that this conversation is very personal, briefly as we finish up?
Yeah, actually food safety is everyone's responsibility. From, as we've just discussed, from the producer all the way to the processor, transporter, to the consumer. For the consumers, just make sure you keep your hands clean your hands. Don't mix raw and cooked food. Make sure you cook your food thoroughly, maintain good temperatures, and also use clean water and also good raw materials, as I said, with the wet markets where you buy. Further, considering food safety has impact on trade, and we have those traders who are unscrupulous. They tend to adulterate milk by putting in preservatives to extend shelf life. Others go into the bush and slaughter meat, donkeys and all that, and just to try and sell uninspected meat. that predisposes most of us to high risk in terms of food safety. So to that extent, I just want to send a message that as a government, we have the Rapid Result Initiative, which brings together a multi-agency team from the Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Ministry of Health, State Department of Public Health, county governments, and departments and agencies, Kenya Bureau of Standards, Dairy Board, to come together to enforce these rules, to ensure that we have compliance. But all that is aimed at ensuring that the food you get on your table is safe and whatever you access on the market is safe.
Definitely.
So that's my message to our fellow Kenyans.
Definitely. And in closing, Mr. Mushiri, I know you've mentioned so much about unscrupulous traders, and even Dr. has touched on it. But in closing, I normally say some people place Panadols in Githeri so that it can get ready faster. These are practical things that Kenyans talk about, and we laugh about it, but it's a food safety concern. From where you sit, especially the mandate that you have in regulating pests, pest control products, where are we heading? Are we also adapting? What innovation is happening in that space? Because I've had a few people who are organic toned. Are we seeing an adoption of maybe safer products as time goes by that are more organic and friendlier to the earth?
Thank you. Kenya is one of the countries in the region that has adopted risk assessment when undertaking regulatory decisions. In so doing, we have been registering products that are relatively safer than products that were registered there before. And we have quite a number of products which we can say they are low risk products. This includes the biologicals, as you call them. And possibly, let me also clarify that it is not all biological pesticides that are safe. Some of them could be as safe as just chemical pesticides. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Frederick Mushiri, CEO, Pest Control Products Board. Thank you very much for your insights. Pil Annette Holm, Sector Advisor Food Safety, the Royal Danish Embassy, Nairobi. Asante sana. Dr. Alan Ozegle, Acting Director of Veterinary Services, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Thank you for your input. And this is a conversation that is passionate to you because you are what you eat, and food safety is something that should be top of priority to you. And I hope you've learned something from this conversation that we've had on the show today. Remember, World Food Safety Day 2024 is being marked on the 7th of June 2024. So be keen to celebrate and learn from that so that you make sure that you're eating safer. So put a full stop to today's FarmKenya show. My name is Nokip Kimboy. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.
Thank you.